in the car at the moment. So maybe some choice Irish accented words there being thrown out as that happened, as he locks up the brake into T1. We'll go back to our fight in GTE we had between the ID Simsport guys and Rare. They were close together, but it seems that one of them has pitted in now. So sorry, Team RRC and ID. Apologies. So, but it's now McLaren in between themselves and the Gap SRT team. The McLaren, of course, in the GT3 division, with the both BMWs being in GTE, and in comes ID Simsport, followed in by Team RRC.
Yeah, coming in for the pit stop. So we'll see what the tactical Reducum has gone back into the lead. Obviously, that's on the pit stops. So the tactics is already coming into play this early into the race. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that as we go. Yeah, Ranieri when I saved it there, guys.
Unfortunately for Nick here, his chair's minded it. So he's been over once already this stream. I'm sure he's going to go over one more time before.
My skill level is rising. Obviously, I learned a lot from the first one. Yeah, but the fact that the GT3s are playing this tactical battle this early on, we're not going to really know the shake-up until really long into the race.
We won't know. What we'll do is we are now approaching nearly 2 hours race completed here at Le Mans. Let's run you through your top three in each class. So right now your leader is the 88 Endurance Racing Team in LMP1. They are followed in second position by the first of the satellite racing cars, driven by Adam Baldwin in second position. And in third position, it is the Team RRC car, currently driven by Adam Hodgkinson. Then in your P2 class, your leaders, who have been leading for the entire race so far, are the Hyder Esport guys, with a commanding lead so far over second place in class, which at the moment is the Pro Sim team, currently with Matt DeCrop in the car at the moment. And in third position, it is the ever fantastic and fun-looking Shane Burke. Very scary looking overtakes I've seen from him so far. We'll pop down now to the GTE class. It was the real esport guys first and second, but it just seems now in the pits the Hyder Esport guys have come out in the lead. So Hyder Esport first, then 919 in second, and 911 in third. We caught them there just on the end of the pit stop, so good to see. And then last but certainly not least, is your GT3 class. We're just going to pop down now to find them. Leading that right now is Viaducton in the Corvette, Callaway Corvette. Then it is B32 Racing in the orange and black McLaren, and third in class there is the Aztec Academy Esports team. So then, nearly 2 hours elapsed so far in this race. Big story so far. I'd have to say, of course, we lost before the start of the race. Had even kicked off. The Team RRC number 79 car did not make the grid with technical issues. Unfortunately, it is a big part of both sim racing and real life racing as well. We also had a big incident for our undercover sim racing Treble 8 car, who had some sort of crash before we started off, or some game issue before we started, which meant that they lost a lap and are now recovering down in 5th position in class. We've also had the Lithium Motorsports P2 have a couple of issues alongside this car you're watching right now, the Black Devil 130 car, who actually ended up having severe suspension damage and are still running, albeit the last running car out of the entire race. So we'll pop back to our leaders so far, the number 88 Endurance. Nick, if I were to say you were one of these drivers in the 88 Endurance racing car right now, and you're leading the race here at Le Mans with quite a significant gap at the moment, what would your strategy be? What would your mindset be at the moment?
Just because you're leading, you really can't lift off, because if you start trying to save time, or you're just going to get out the pattern that got you into the lead in the first place, so you really want to, you've got to keep going. Obviously, keeping an eye on the fuel, keeping an eye on the tyres, get through the traffic as safely as you can. Do not, as we've seen already happen early, get a stop and go, which throws you back in the pack. Keep doing what you're doing. That got you there, obviously. Triple 8 undercover sim racing came into their problems that gave them the lead. So you just want to keep doing what got you that position in the first place, and just keep the laps going as you go.
You've got to try and keep it nice and consistent round here. Consistency is the key in endurance racing, and it's always very nice to see your time at the top of the fastest lap tracker. But of course, that isn't going to get you anywhere over the course of 24 hours because not everyone is able to maintain that pace. Just popping back down through the field, we've got to say the undercover sim racing car, they're really on a charge at the moment. They've just been doing 316s, 317s pretty much the entirety of the last few laps. And to give you some sort of context, that's about 5 seconds a lap faster than any other of their competitors right now. They are really charging.
I've just been noticing the times. Obviously, the last lap from the leaders of the race and class leader, 3:25. As opposed to 3:16.9 from the AAA Undercover Sim Racing team with Devin Brown in the car. So obviously their tactic now is all out. It's basically with full fuel, possibly hard tyres. It's a case of qualifying laps or as near as you can to it with 30 odd plus cars on the track. To be doing a 3:16.9 at this stage is pretty good. They're certainly not out of the race at all at this stage. Obviously other cars can run into similar problems, but at the minute they're looking after themselves and putting in times that's way above everybody else in their class.
What we'll do is we'll actually pop on board then with the undercover sim racing treble 8 car and give you a bit of a guide round here of the Le Mans circuit. We're going to start unconventionally at Indianapolis here. Usually we start at the start-finish line, but hey-ho, we're a bit different here. We're sim racing, we do what we want. So first right into Indy, then into the left. Use the banking of this left-hander here to bring the car round nice and easy before braking as late as you dare for Arnage. Touch the curb on the inside, let it roll to the outside, and then foot down and prepare yourself for the Porsche curves. Not much of cornering to do up until that point. Just take the line of least resistance and watch the speed climb. We're now over 200 miles per hour, 330 k's now, nearly 340 before we get to the entry of the first right-hander. Throw the car to the inside, hope it sticks, it usually does, and then thread the needle here. Don't get too close to the curb on the right there because that'll drag you out into the wall if you're not careful. Now the last part, keep tight to the inside here, focus on exit and use a lot of this curb on the outside. Try and maintain the speed, 260 k's on exit there for the undercover sim sport car, so very quick through there. Now for the last two chicanes, all about momentum and getting the line right. First chicane looks good. How's the second? The forward chicane, very good through there, and Nick is giving me a bit of a pointer out. What's happening, Nick?
We've got a GT3 off in Sector 2. GT3 off in Sector 2. I didn't quite catch the car, but it looked like they've definitely got some front-end damage.
Azitec Academy, I think it might be. They've got a yellow around them. Oh, and that's one of these satellite guys going off briefly as well. But Azitec, fourth in class, I think, just gone off. And is that a replay we're seeing? Yeah.
Oh! Satellite car actually hit the wall there at the exit of Indy, got on the brakes, locked up on the way in, couldn't quite get the car slowed down, and then bam, into the gravel they go, and then having a bit of a time trying to rejoin as well. We will try and get the Azitec car up on screen and see if they are still running okay at the moment. Let's see if we can find them. Here they are. They're actually back in the pit lane. It seems they have had the same issue as the undercover racing car did, and they are now in the pits. Presumably about to lose a lap. These guys were up in third position in class, but we can't see what else there. Chris?
I wonder if it was not them that had a spin, but ID Sim Sport, because they did just they were just off. There are ID Sim Sports now, but their last lap time was a little bit off. Whether it was just a pit stop, I'm not too sure. But unfortunately for Azitec, who were second at one stage, have now dropped off the podium in fourth place. So they were running in second, they're now down to fourth, and that's all playing into the hands of Viaducton in the lead. There we can see ID Sim Sport, who are third at the moment in that class. They are behind B32 Racing. Just looking further up just to see what other battles we have going on. At the moment, we seem to be at a stage of the race where things are settled down. Team RRC versus Team Bernie Racing still sort of going on, although it's up to 2.5 seconds gap between those two now. But just looking at the times of undercover undercover sim racing. That off for Satellite really is going to bring them a little bit closer. They did a 3:17 last time. To give you an idea of how much time Satellite lost in that, they did a 3:44, so they probably lost around 20 seconds in that little off to the gravel.
It's a matter of when and not if, really, for the undercover guys. They are really coming fast at the moment onto the back of the cars in front.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's rephrase that, shall we?
No, Jimmy, let's just stay with that one.
That's not, shall we?
Well, I was going to say, should we find, considering whatever you just say right now, seems to sound a little bit strange. Should we find out a little bit more about the undercover sim racing team? We did get some info of a couple of the drivers. So we've got Nicholas Hillbrand in that in the car. Not too sure if he's in there at the moment, though. Let's have a look who's in. It's Devon Braun who's there at the moment. Devon, 21 years old, German driver, had his first ever experience of first ever sim experience, back in 2008. Nicholas Hillbrand, also 21 years old. His sim debut, if you like, came back in 2014. The team formed in January 2016, so not been going too long, but there they are, trying to make a recovery of a lifetime and potentially challenge for a podium. Nick, get off your phone, because I think we're going to be joined on stage by another guest. We've been lucky enough to speak to a couple of the teams so far, but Nick is now about to speak to another team to get some progress on what is going on with their race. Nick, over to you.
How's it going with you then, Klaus? All right? How was your stint then?
Exhausting, I would say. Quite exhausting, I would say.
How was it? How was your stint?
I said quite exhausting.
Oh.
I mean, I haven't felt very well today, so it's a bit hard to do. Even though it was just 3 stints, but...
Did you have many incidents, or
No.
how was the traffic?
Not really, it wasn't too bad. I had a few GU cars where I didn't really think they held the line, but that's okay. The car is relatively clean, and we didn't have any damage that's fixable. So far, all is good.
Were you informed when the rear car had run into problems?
No, what happened?
That had a problem with the game and had to return to the pits and drop right down.
Oh, I didn't know.
Klaus is with the 88 endurance car, the leader.
Yeah, that's it. You were sitting in. You just passed the satellite car.
Undercover car went up. Remember? Oh, come on, Nick. Come on, get together.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell you what.
Why will he know about the V2 class?
I'll help you out. I'll help you out, Nick. I'm feeling charitable right now. Of course, you guys kind of inherited the lead after we saw the undercover car go off. What's your plan now? Just kind of keep it steady and hope for the best. I remember last year we had a similar situation where you, I think, inherited the lead, then had an issue, and then ended up falling back a little bit.
Yeah.
Hoping to avoid that this year.
Yes.
Yes, he is. There you go. Thank you, Klaus, for your detailed response. Very much appreciate that.
Well, I think that's not much to do. I mean, I see that the undercover is going quite fast. Our luck is now they might start to push a little bit harder than they wanted to. I know it's still a long race, and it's not like they are that long behind, actually. What is that? About 5 minutes? 5.5 minutes?
Yeah,
I mean,
you were just actually taking the spot from Satellite when it was just a few minutes later when they ran into their problems and you took the lead. So
yeah, it was luckily in that way. I mean, we planned to go out on a single stint for the tires on the first stint. Usually the track has been less grippy, so we went slightly softer on the tires. It doesn't really matter in the end, I could see, because I could just as well have went another step softer on the tires. Just track just didn't give up any grip, I think. Excuse me.
So you're not getting much grip
from
the tires at the minute, or is the track gripping up at all?
Yeah, at the beginning the track was kind of dirty, but it's gripped up quite a bit now. So it's not an issue anymore. So we can just run the harder tires and run more stints on them.
When do
compared
you
to-
expect to be back in? Are you?
Well, if I can get this headache released at so it's gonna be not quite late. It might be after Morton is on the track now, but we also might just have to rotate PAN to get a full cycle as well or something before I get in the car again.
So do you think this could affect the pre-race plan as far as driver stints are going? Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all. No. I mean, we haven't really planned that much. I know, or I knew from the start that I was going to start the race, but I could do 3, 5, or 7 stints, maybe 8 stints, even if that was required. I just didn't feel well enough to do it, so maybe I'll do that in the end again, just like the last couple of years. So we'll see then.
Okay. Right. Thanks very much. I hope the rest of the race goes as good as it has for you in the first stint. I hope you get rid of that headache and you come back absolutely 100%. And I've just heard some damage there. Did you hear?
I didn't hear that on mine. We haven't got game audio here, but thank you very much,
All right, thanks,
Klaus,
Klaus, yeah.
for joining us. Great to have you up on stage, and best of luck for you guys in the 88 Endurance. And let Morton know if he does well, he can go back and play ETS 2 if he wants. All right, there you go. Well, apparently, according to our spreadsheet, Morton is actually obsessed with Euro Truck Simulator 2. It's his favourite simulator. So maybe we should. Say, according to our spreadsheet, apparently Morton, his favourite sim is ETS 2, Euro Truck Simulator 2.
Oh yeah, PS.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's open there.
So, yeah, so we've got that on our spreadsheet. So probably get rid of that, shall we? But anyway, yes, that was Klaus. Thank you, Klaus, for joining us. We'll pop back down now to the car, which probably is going to be their biggest competition as the race comes on, which is the undercover race sim racing car, which is now in the process of actually trying to unlap themselves from one of the satellite machines. Of course, the satellite car emblazoned with the American flag, kind of hard to miss. That's the number 11. Number 11 did start in second place, and here comes the undercover car. Now, lap time difference, Chris, about 2-3 seconds of lap right now between these two cars, with the undercover car being the faster of the two. I'm trying to work out how many laps it's going to be before they're back on the lead lap and challenging for the lead again, given this pace.
Yeah, well, it could be when we come back to the race tomorrow morning. But they're undercover now, just currently trying to work their way through the traffic. Okay, great to have Klaus on stage with us. Of course, 4 podium finishes in this so far. This is 8th GTR 24. Made his sim debut all the way back in the year 2000, and we're just looking now at Hyder Esports. I think Nick's picked something up over with them.
Looks like they're damaged and travelling well off pace there.
Yep, you're right. That's the number 4. That's the number 60 car, currently second in class. We haven't quite seen what's happened to them. I think that was that Casper in the car? Or was there a driver change there? It was Casper Stoltz.
Martin Dylan did now.
Martin Dylan now. So maybe there's been some sort of issue with driver swap. I can't see. Nick, is the steering straight on that one? We can't quite see from here for now. It seems to be running straight and true, but just very slow. Maybe a fuel issue.
Well, we'll see, because they're coming to the pit now. We'll see if he dives in. Yep, he's coming straight into the pits. So we'll soon find out whether it's been major damage or just something that's a quick fix.
Try and find the replay for us, Nick, if you can, and we'll. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We'll go to your screen, Nick, and I'll have a quick look for the replay, and we'll see what we can find.
So in the meantime, while we're looking for the replay, that means Real Esports are 1 and 2 once again in the GTE class. Let's have a look back and see if we can find out what happened to Hyder Esports. While they're doing that, why don't we talk a little bit more about the endurance racing team? Of course, Morton, ETS fan, which sits well with Jimmy, 28 years old, made his debut back in 2010. He's done 4 GTRs with 2 podiums as well. And Per, a 43-year-old, also on that team here for the 6th time. He's had 4 podiums. So between them, they have had around 10 podiums in this event. And at the moment, they are leading the way, the endurance racing team. At the moment, we haven't really found anything that's particularly gone wrong with the Hyder Esports team. Jimmy?
I think it might have been fuel, Chris. They were running fast up until Indy, then suddenly just got off the pace and had to slow it right down towards the end of a lap. Either that or some sort of equipment issue on their end. We'll have to wait and see. Chris, that's a lithium. Oh, I think. Well, yes. We're sending Nick round to. And Nick is basically intercepting people on the way to race control to try and get us some juicy race gossip. We know you're like, oh, the lithium car. There's a lithium guy right there right now. The lithium P2, very slow at the moment. Looks like they're out of fuel. They've got the clutch in, full throttle. And at the moment, I think that car is not going to make it to the pit lane. Chris, that car, I think, is out of fuel. Look, we've got the throttle, we've got the inputs in the bottom left. We can see it. You can see it on your stream as well. The clutch is in, but nothing is happening. I don't think they're going to.
And there's an off there.
McLaren in the background as well. I didn't quite catch what happened there. Did they get in the? I think they were caught unsighted there by the slow P2, and that's a McLaren without a rear wing. So I'm going to have to see if I can get a replay quick. Give me 2 seconds.
Yep, so while you're having a look at that, Lithium are dropping down the order, and Nick's gone to find out exactly what's going on. Now, we're going to try and get a replay of why that McLaren had gone round just behind the Lithium car, and Nick will update us as to what's gone on. And, oh, well, it's B32 Racing. Okay, so they're fighting for a podium in the GT3 class. And we are going to get a replay very shortly. So looks like the replay has just come up. So let's have a look, Jimmy.
Very strange incident, it seems. Went to pass the P2 car and then got loose. Something happened there. I'm not sure if maybe the drive had a bit of a lapse of concentration, but got loose in a part of a circuit where you really shouldn't be going round. That either suggests to me extreme tyre wear or some sort of problem there. And of course, we had the satellite car and the undercover racing car have to avoid them, and one of the M8s as well coming through, as well as the Simtech car. So carnage really in the latter part of the stage there. And I think we have Nick had a chat with one of the Lithium guys. What's going on, Nick?
Fuel.
Fuel again.
Fuel again. Obviously, trying to get round, and it's parked up. It ran out on the run up to Porsche.
That's the thing around here, guys. If you run out of fuel with your stretching fuel around Le Mans is not something that you can really do. The lap is so long around here, especially for these GT cars. But for the P2 car, about a 3:30 lap time or so. Lots of people coming into the pits now as well. And good news for the B32 racing car, making it back to the pits for a new rear wing and probably a new set of underpants after that off, I'd say. But real disappointment for Lithium Racing. That'll be them out of the race now, I think. You can't rejoin from a lack of fuel from my memory. And, of course, just like real life, that'll be you out. So bad luck for the Lithium guys. Went from bad to worse then. They didn't have a good start of the race and kind of ended up having issues there. And there they are, confirmed as a retirement.
Yep. Obviously, past the pit entrance. Obviously, trying to fuel save on the way around. Obviously, trying to crawl back around, but... just too shy, about 2 litres shy, I think there would have been where they parked up. Unfortunately, I've got experience of actually doing that, missing the pit, and crawled throughout the lap and managed to get back with 0 showing on the fuel.
We've had that a couple of times ourselves, myself and my own teammates. More recently at a race at Interlagos, where it's actually Mr. Stephen Bailey. You know him very well.
Mr. Killer Bee.
Came across the start-finish line and then said, "Oh, expletive, I have expletived up," and then went very, very slow around the lap and just about managed to get into the pit lane. But that's the thing about one of those circuits, a lot shorter lap around there. You can really coast. Around Le Mans, very flat for the most part, not really anywhere you can coast from.
Well, I did it round Le Mans a couple of seasons back, and I was we'll talk about being in a groove, being in a zone, driving through the night with Ben Russell, and I was in the car, and I got to Indianapolis, going down the Mulsanne, and I went, "Oh, expletive once more. I should have come in." And basically, I crawled from that moment. Obviously, the lap time just went out the window. But unfortunately, it was just because I was in such a zone driving, and I knew I had to come in when I passed the lap, the previous, but I came and I was on it again. The time was there, and it was too late.
First thing you do is
missed. That could have been the case in this instance as well.
Yeah, definitely. First thing you do is just kick the clutch and just roll essentially and hope for the best. We're currently on board with the Simtech car, the number one, of course, number one on that livery because it is the overall winner of last year's event. This year, of course, not in the Premier class, so to speak, and actually in second position in class, which is better. It started down in fourth, I believe it was, so 2 up from their starting position, but now trying to make some headway on Hyder. But at the moment, that's not going to work out too well, given that they are about 2 seconds a lap slower right now. We've got another guest coming up onto our stage. We'll give Nick a little bit of time to get him acclimated before we throw him over this time. We didn't give you much time last time, so yeah. We'll get that sorted out. But for now, good progress from Simtech, Chris.
Yep, and some pit stops in the P1 class under endurance racing. No longer in the lead as they have come into the pits. So they have done another pit stop. And as we say that, Satellite are in. The number 11, Adam Baldwin, is into the pits for their third stop. And it looks like Matt Strand is now out in the car. So the second Satellite car is second, Team RRC third, Undercover is fourth. And then endurance racing in fifth. So Undercover now up into the top five, up into the top five for the first time since they had that problem. So Undercover Sim Racing fourth place. Hyder Esports is then leading the P2 class from Simtech and Rare. Then in the GTE, it is the 2 real esport cars from Burst Esports. And then in the GT3 class, Via Dupton still leading the way from ID Sim Sport, and B32 Racing, of course, having just had that off.
Yep, so that's all looking better for them now. Good to have them back on circuit and back looking decent. We're still looking at the Simtech car right now. I'll work from a different point of view. Nick is just setting up with our guests to get him acclimated, and then we'll go over and hear from him. Nick, are we ready?
I think we're ready, Jimmy. Yeah.
Then we'll pass over to Nick.
Yeah,
then.
we've got Jimmy Hughes here from Undercover GTE car. It's actually shown that he's BMW M8 GTE, but he's actually driving a Porsche. So, how did it go for you when the full tilt? Any problems, and how's the car at the minute?
Yeah, well, firstly, the car's great. My team have put together a really good setup, so the car feels good. We started in P5, had a good fight with one of the BMWs during the first stint. Got a little bit heated at time, a little bit of contact, but you know that's GT racing for you. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a screen freeze that set us back 60 seconds. So we dropped from P5 down to P10. Managed to fight our way back into P7 when I handed the car over. So yeah, John's doing a great job at the moment, just beating my lap time. So yeah, hopefully forward from here.
Yeah, it's a long race, so obviously it's better to maybe get the early problems out the way, you know, and then and continue the fight. And as you say, John looks like he's really taking it on and pushing forward. So hopefully recover everything that has been lost. So that you see, unfortunately, you had that screen freeze, but hopefully it'll not come back again. And chasing the Simtech Pink. ID Sim Sport in front of you as well, so hopefully you get back up to fifth. And as we speak, Simtech Pink with Magnus Berggren has just entered the pits. So when are you due back in the car? Who else is a member of the Undercover team?
So I've got a nice bit of a break now. I'm due back in the car at midnight local time. We'll have Peter No joining the car next, a long-time member of Undercover Sim Racing, great driver, really nice guy. Brought some lovely Belgian beers with us as well, which we enjoyed last night. And then we've got Rasmus taking over the car after him. So again, another good guy, Danish guy, local guy, and yeah, he's been doing some good things with the car this week.
Really good. Well, I hope everything goes well and we'll have no more issues of any type whatsoever.
Yeah, thank you very much.
One last question before you go. How's the P1s and the P2s? What's like when they're coming up on top?
I have to say, mostly they're very good. We did have one issue. We got barged off at the second chicane on the Mulsanne by a P1. But I must add that the team that did that came straight over to the pit box, apologised for it, so there's no hard feelings there. But generally, they're pretty sensible, waiting for the gaps, waiting for the exit of the corner. So, yeah, it's been good fun.
Okay, thanks very much, Jimmy, and we'll rejoin battle next week.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, thanks very much.
Well, good to hear from Jimmy Hughes there, the 29-year-old, the British driver, former kart and saloon racer. Interesting story about Jimmy, actually. When he went to saloon racing, he took 6 podiums in his first 6 races. So pretty good at adapting to new cars and classes. Peter, who Jimmy mentioned, is the 45-year-old, the Belgian. This is his second appearance at the GTR 24. He's a former Team Hard Clio Cup champ. Rasmus, 21 years old, the Danish driver, he joined the team in 2018, so only this year, and this is his first appearance. And in the car at the moment is Jonathan Provost. He is 21. He was 21 on Friday. The British driver is also a clerk of the course for MSV in championships, which include British GT, British F3, and DTM. Jimmy, big battle going on, it seems, in the P2s.
Yes, we do. This is for a second position right now between the Rare Endurance Team number 3 car and Simtech, who we've seen a couple of times during this race. The Rare car seems to have really pulled up to the back. That may have been due to pit stops. I'm unsure right now. We'll have a look at the pits. No, they're both on 3 stops at the moment. And the Simtech car being held up somewhat by one of our GTE cars. It's a Burst eSport car. Luckily, both through there without any being held up too much at the moment. And the battles on track hot up once more. As I say that, they follow each other into the pit lane. So now it's a battle of the pit crews. Let's see what the difference in strategy is through here. We've seen this, the Simtech guys not take tyres, I think, in the last couple of stops. Big lock up into the pit lane there, which says to me they're maybe not looking after the tyres as much as they would usually do. So maybe a full service here for the Simtech guys. Let's see who comes out in front.
So we'll stay with the pit stops then, shall we? And whilst you are watching that, I can tell you, let's just look a little bit further up the road. That Undercover Sim Racing are only around 80 seconds back from the 64 satellite car now. And they did a 3:15 last time. I don't know, something, whether that was just a pit stop for satellite racing, but their last lap was certainly off. I think perhaps just a pit stop thing for them. But Nick Rowland, D-Max racer, is now in the car for them. IRDK, as you can see on your screen, have also come into the pits. They are one of the P2 teams as well. Looking further down the road, DGTO have just done a PB, and that, who is leaving first there, Jimmy?
Simtech out the first. That says to me that they did not take tyres, given that the Rare car is still there and stationary. So the Rare car will likely be a bit quicker on this next stint, but of course the Simtech car has the advantage of not staying in the pits as long and is out back up to speed, albeit though third in class. Temporarily taking second in class is the 007 Pro Sim car, just currently behind one of our McLaren GT3 entries. Not many GT3 cars in this field, and again made less for the fact we actually lost the Team RRC 79 car before the race had even begun. But still good to see those guys on track. And of course, in the McLaren car, or the GT3 class I should say, you are essentially being passed all of the time, so you really have to be taking note of what is coming up behind. Of course, still at the lead of your P2 class, making a quite risky move there on one of the M8 GTE cars, is the Hyder eSport car. They've been pretty much flawless so far, Chris. Dennis Lind at the wheel of that right now. Dennis Lind, of course, the Super Trofeo driver, real-life racing driver. Great to have him here. He keeps offering me to show him around his Lamborghini, but I think that's a euphemism sometimes, so I don't take him up on it.
Yeah, sensible decision perhaps. But as you can see there, we're just looking at them.
Yeah, he's just peeled in now. Yeah, he's just peeled into the pit lane, so he's getting that done. So Bossbeer driver change there. He's been in since the start. It's about 2 hours or so in the car there for old Lindy. We'll leave his profile out for now, shall we? Of course, here is the Endurance 88 car, down in 5th position.
Endurance Racing, did you say? Let's have a look. Yes.
They were leading. We've
Yeah.
missed something there.
Morton, yeah. We've got Satellite Racing in the lead with Matt Strand. Something's happened. Did we miss?
Well, we will let Jimmy actually perhaps try and go back a little bit and see if we can find out. But Hyder Esports in from the lead of the P2 class. Let's try and find out what's happened to Endurance Racing. Hopefully, we haven't had another problem for a race leader in the P1 class today, because of course that's what we had for Undercover Sim Racing. Hyder Esports come back out and are now still in the lead. ProSim second place, SimTech are in third, and we're still just trying to find out exactly what's happened with Endurance. Nick, can you following any battles yourself over there?
I'm just trying to work out. I think what I can make out with Endurance, with Martin Northup in the car. They're a lap down, as you can see. Undercover Sim Racing of getting themselves back on the lead lap. And I just think there's been a major issue again, maybe something similar. If one of the teams, if they can hear us, if they can possibly fill in on the details, because they've gone from first down to fifth, and that's promoted the number 11 Satellite Racing team into P1 overall and first in class. Just crossed over the start finish into lap 43.
So we're just hearing right now, thank you to Mr. Eric Sweden coming and bringing us up to date. He's one of the satellite guys, saying that there's actually a crash in the Porsche curves that involved the Endurance 88 car. That was a few laps ago. We've actually missed that because we just went through a couple of laps back to see if we can find it. Just go show what good comms guys we are, aren't we, if we're missing out stuff like that. But big issues there. Of course, I said to Klaus, are you going to try and get through this time without incident? He said yes, and they go away and have an incident. So I'm sure he's having that's probably made his headache a little bit worse. But that does mean the Undercover Sim Racing guys have moved up into fourth position. That 888 car looking good so far. The pace of that car is just unquestionable right now. Just putting in fast lap after fast lap. In fact, their last lap was a 3:15.8. And if you go to our qualifying, and bear in mind, of course, it was a average of wet qualifying, that would have put them in fourth, in fourth position with that qualifying time there. They wouldn't even be last in class. Give you some context to the guys around them. The next fastest car on track would be the Endurance Racing 88 car, the car we were just talking about, and that is 3 seconds slower. 3 seconds slower. That's the next fastest car in class.
I just saw that Nicholas Hildbrand is taking on the mantle in his running with it at such a pace. As you say, 3:15.8. If you look at Matt in the lead satellite car, the number 11 car, his last lap was a 3:20.9, which is over 5 seconds slower than the Undercover Sim Racing guys. And he's only a second off the fastest time that car has set so far in the event, which is a 3:14.3.
Wow, absolute fantastic pace from the Undercover guys, and no doubt in the next couple of hours we'll see them move further up and probably back into contention with the guys in front. In fact, from being over a lap down, they're now only 58 seconds behind the Satellite Racing car, number 64, currently piloted by Nick Rowland. So, Nick, someone you know, Chris, from Real Life Racing.
Yeah, Nick does. The DMAX Championships, which is a karting championship, fortunately coming to an end this year, but that's how I've commentated on Nick in that championship, and he's had some success in that. So it was it was a surprise to actually be coming here, knowing someone other than you guys. Actually, it was good. It is a small world, isn't it? And Nick has made the journey all the way over from the UK to race with the satellite team. He was telling me that the satellite guys had to get all their stuff shipped over, get it delivered to the house of another team, and then come and pick it all up to get it here to the venue. So they've had quite a journey before the race has even started. So if they could get a car or two onto the podium, I think they'd be very, very happy indeed. But Nick in the car for them at the moment. They've done 43 laps. Leaders are their teammates in the number 11 car. However, I don't know how much longer Satellite could be in third for, because they are being caught at the rate of a few seconds a lap here by Undercover Racing, who are just 48 seconds back now. So that's certainly something we're going to have to monitor over the next few laps.
Well, this rate will be probably less than just over 10 laps before they are caught and overhauled by the charging Treble 8 car. We have Team RRC and Simtech currently close-ish on track right now, back in the GTEs. That's a Simtech pink car, so the BMW M8 GTE, and see if we can find it on track. Here it is. So here is the Simtech pink car. We'll actually go on board there, and there is our competitor in front. And you might notice now the shadows starting to get a bit longer now, and the headlights becoming more and more effective as we move into the early evening here at Le Mans. Of course, if you've just joined us, welcome on in. This is the GTR 24 run by the Endurance eRacing World Championship. Guys, a great event in its 11th year, and it's only getting bigger and bigger as the years go by. We're down in Middelfart in Denmark, a very hilarious name if you're from the UK, but it actually means middle of your travels or middle of the journey in Denmark, and I guess that's pretty appropriate for where we are right now. Not quite middle of the journey yet here at Le Mans, quite a few hours to go until we get to that point. But it's been a very interesting race so far, and I'm sure it will continue that. Of course, any of the teams at the event are listening. Feel free to come and say hello at any point as we see one of the cars in front make the way past the Simtech pink car. But right now we're focusing on the GTE battle between Simtech pink and Team RRC Porsche. Two very different cars, two very different drivetrains, of course, but only tenths apart on track at the moment.
And on that note, as we approach 7 o'clock local time here, we are going to go into an ad break.
How do you feel when someone is looking over your shoulder? Not all snoopers can be seen. Cyber criminals can steal your sensitive information. Hackers can intercept your data on public Wi-Fi. But not with the NordVPN app. It helps protect your privacy by encrypting your online data, and it's so easy to use. NordVPN, your shield from online snoopers. Download and enjoy trusted internet security and privacy.
Connections. Therefore, it is critical that they provide optimal service. Xilinx desktop, mobile and web applications can process everything from normal calls and callbacks to chats, emails, and social media inquiries. Let Xilinx liberate your business.
We live in a world where we often forget the consequences of our overconsumption. At Refurb, we want to change that particular habit, which is why we purchase large amounts of used, quality computers from companies and subsequently restore and reuse them. When we receive the computers, we perform data deletion, renovate, and test them to make sure they are once again like new. Many have already realized that you can save a lot of money without compromising, simply by reusing. Get more for less and be the positive change by reusing.
So Next Level Meal is a meal replacement. So if you've ever heard of Soylent or one of those other products, the idea is that instead of eating a meal, you drink it or you eat a bar. That's what Next Level Meal is. The difference being that it actually tastes good. For me, I use Next Level Meal when I'm traveling or when I want to replace the worst meal that I'm going to eat in a given day. And the reason that I'm excited about this particular food is because its basis is real food.
With so much of my life stored on my PC, I can't afford to take any chances. That's why I choose Kaspersky Antivirus to help keep me safe. It protects me from viruses and spyware without slowing me down. My PC keeps performing as it was designed to, and nothing gets in my way. Get award-winning protection for your PC. Kaspersky Antivirus.
So just as we went to our break, there was drama. The Simtech Pink and Team Rare car involved in this. Rare goes round at the Dunlop chicane. The team that's Simtech car Pink has nowhere to go. A bit of a bop on the nose there, and both cars round. But we must immediately turn our attention now to the battle in P2. Again with a Simtech car and Rare car very close together right now. They were side by side just a couple of laps ago. It seems that the Rare car has built some sort of a gap now, to the Simtech car behind. But Shane Burke was really putting the screws here to the number 3 car, Chris.
Yeah, well, they passed each other around 2 or 3 times. The battle went on for the entirety of the lap, and I think it was through the Porsche curves where Rare eventually got the move done, and Simtech had to healed position and drop back into 4th. So Rare Endurance, through the first part of the lap, have managed to build up a gap. Coming out of the final corner, Simtech were well within a second behind Rare Endurance, but in the first part of the lap, Rare Endurance have managed to build a crucial gap over Simtech, and that is dropped the toe, and they are now away and clear. I did see, whilst we were in the ad break, Nick was walking around the paddock, shall we say, chatting to some teams. Nick, did you find out anything for us?
Yeah, unfortunately, some teams have suffered stop and go because they didn't understand fully the consequences of cutting the track limits, and obviously they had to learn the hard way. Obviously, had a quick chat with the lead car, Adam and Eric, and obviously they're keeping an eye on undercover sim racing. They obviously know the pace that them guys are holding in that car, but they also can see the way they're driving to gain that speed, because they say they're taking a lot of chances.
Meanwhile, at the head of the field, the battle for second place overall is on again. We're on board with the number 64 Satellite Racing team car. A couple of incidents so far the 64 has had, but now it's looking strong and trying to reel in the Team RRC car in front. We've got Joe Giampa currently in the car for Team RRC. He was up on stage a bit earlier on having a chat with us. Now he's in the car and trying to side through some of these GT3 cars.
Yes, he is. So Satellite Racing there, just getting held up through Indianapolis, but now gets past into Arnage. So gap is just over 2 seconds between these guys at the moment, but Joe Ciampa, who we had on stage right at the start of the race, is now being caught by Satellite Racing. We are summoning our next victim, who is just making it. Oh, and there we go.
No, don't turn around, Adam.
So
Yeah, it looks like Nick has really jumped into the 64 car and got it back on track, so to speak. As obviously had a couple of issues earlier on in the first couple of stints, but it looks like Nick's settled it down a bit and is really coming on a pace and starting to put some legs on it and trying to make the 77 car honest. And we'll let our next guest settle in and. I'll let him know how we're going to go.
Oh, and there we go. Incident
Incidents.
for Undercover Sim Racing. They were under a lot of pressure there. Jonathan Provost in the car was just being caught by the Burst Esport team. Have we got a replay? I think
we will do in just 2 seconds. Chris is just loading up. So here is the replay. A bit of lock-up there going into the first part of Indy. And here is the Burst Esport M8 now, right on the back of the Porsche. We then come into Arnage. Looks like Jonathan Provost just gets it wrong here. Lock-up on the way in, then gets onto the grass. Rear-wheel drive plus gravel equals spin. And there it is. He loses a position and a little bit of contact with the wall. Seems to have got away with that one, but that does remain to be seen. Now we're just having our guest, Mr. Adam Hodgkinson, get set up with Nick to the left. We'll let us know when he's ready, and we'll go to an interview with him. But now, the Undercover Sim Racing car, a lot of time lost to the guy in front. That'll be a bit of a downer, won't it, Chris? Always when you're fighting, it ends that quickly. Always feel a little bit frustrated when you make a mistake like that.
Yeah, and there we go, straight into the pits as that incident has happened. So was that, Jimmy, a last lap of his stint, push as hard as you can, or I wonder if he's going to stay out, but if he's getting out of the car now, I'd say that was perhaps, last lap, give it everything before you jump out after your first stint.
That, or it could be tyres. It could be the tyres have finally given up, and you're now getting to the point where the rear tyres didn't have the traction that they had before, which could be just a number of factors, basically. But I think we're ready to pop over to Nick with our guest, Adam Hodgkinson from Team RRC.
Yeah, as Jimmy said, we're lucky enough to have Adam Hodgkinson alongside me here. Joe Ciampa's just took over. How was your stint, and any problems arise from it?
For me, it's a little messy. I caught the inside curb on the exit of Porsche curves, and it's never nice to be sideways and stationary there. I got tagged by DT, but luckily it didn't really cost. It was like having a full pit stop 5 laps early, so it wasn't too bad. And then I did the noob thing of pressing the wrong button for for pit speed, because it's not my wheel, so it doesn't take much. But other than that, we seem to be quite close with the satellite team. We're just now basically our pit stop behind the leader and battling with the second one for some reason.
Yeah, this is going to be the whole story throughout the race, I think. The teams seem very, very balanced within the speeds and the times that you're offering up on the track. What do you think of the way the Undercover Sim Racing team's coming back, obviously, from their problems that they had earlier on? Are they a team that you're obviously going to have to keep an eye on, because the pace is quite exceptional?
I expect them just to drive through the field. It's almost the same with the 88 as well. They have a slightly higher peak performance, so I expect them to slowly move through. So there's no the way the car we had set up, as I said, in just after qualifying, we're quite safe. So we are the slowest in the straight line. So as I was behind the satellite cars at the beginning, I couldn't overtake them in a straight line. So I was basically just cruising around. I got an extra lap of fuel out of it, which is why we were a lead in the lap for once. But yeah, I expect them to just come through as long as they can keep out of trouble, which is they just need to keep their heads down, really, and they'll be able to go through.
I think the risk and reward is going to be where they are at. Obviously, they may have troubles like endurance ran into trouble. I think it's keeping clean, hitting the markers. We've obviously had times throughout the race where a couple of cars have already fell foul of the cut track, and obviously you start getting cut tracks, it's a stop and hold 10. I'm not sure if it gets more excessive for every time that you do it. As we see, the Undercover are coming in for a scheduled pit stop. So who's next in the car after Joe?
I think we have Kim in the car after Joe. I tried to triple the softs just to see what they were like. Giving the option to Joe to try because he might have a different wear pattern. I seem to wear my rears a little bit too much compared to the front, so the front's always too grippy in the mid corner. So he should be in for at least either 2 doubles or possibly even 2 triples, depending how he feels. And then it'll be Kim in the car, and then John if he's around. How he should be to go after Kim.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Well, thank you very much. I hope you'll send Joe back up. He's already been up, but like, before he did his stint, we've got. I'm going to hand over to Jimmy. I think we've got a couple. Oh, he's going to have a talk.
I got to talk to my Hodger, haven't I? When I got the chance to do so, I've got to ask Adam, because of course we're both we've been teammates in various endurance races before. We've driven together in various online competitions. How does this compare? Being here in person, having everyone here. You can't shout at anyone here, can you? Because they can hear you.
You can't shout, and you can hear people shouting, which is often the amusing bit. You can always hear when someone's been wound up. But it's amazing being here. You can't compare it to anything. All the online stuff, I mean, you're sat in your own comfort zone. And my biggest problem was getting used to the rig for the first day. We spent most of the first day actually adjusting the driving position so it was comfortable for the majority of us.
Is this your first time at this event, as it is for myself and Chris, and I would imagine a few other drivers? For me, it's just watching it through the years and then seeing it, obviously, from last year when there was, I think, there's 14 cars on the grid to 34. This year, it's just a major wake-up call for me to realise what kind of event this really is.
Yeah, this is my first time. I planned to come as just a spectator, and then, like yourself, we've watched it on and off over the years, moving up from GTR2 and then obviously into R-Factor 2. And yeah, like 3 weeks ago, they had a space and said, "Well, I like to drive." I said, "Yeah, why not?"
There you go. That's all right, isn't it? I mean, unfortunately, every time I approach someone to drive, Nick comes in and says something about some race in 2017. I'm not even really sure what he's talking about. Some wrong boy. I don't know what's going on. But Adam, thank you very much for joining us, mate. It's been great having you up here. I'm sure we'll pull you up here again at some point when we have some time to. I mean, when we want to talk to you again. Yeah, but best of luck, guys, and I hope it turns out well for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam.
So that was Adam Hodgkinson from Team RRC, currently running in second place at the moment. Joe Champer at the wheel, about nearly a lap off the lead, 3 minutes or so of the Satellite Racing guys who we are watching right now. Of course, Satellite guys probably not expecting to be leading at this point, but they are on number 11. Yeah, as I said, about 3 minutes ahead of the car in front, just dipping a wheel into the gravel there. I wouldn't really recommend doing that too many times, because that can get a bit spooky a bit quickly if you are not careful. Meanwhile, down the field, it's kind of spread out a little bit. So I tell you what, while we have a little bit of time, Chris, why don't you take us through the top 3 in each class, and we'll get them on screen for you guys.
So let's, well, we've got Satellite Racing. Why don't we flick to Team RRC in second place now? Could say fairly comfortable at the moment. However, if we look just a little bit further back down the Mulsanne Straight, here is third place Satellite Racing in the 64. Now, this gap is coming down between these two teams. It is less than 20 seconds now, albeit Team RRC did pull out a very good lap on their last lap. But Satellite Racing are getting a little bit closer. I've monitored that gap. And just saying that, race leaders come in to the pits. It's worth noting that endurance racing and undercover sim racing both did a stop as well. Then we come to the P2 class. Hyder Esport leading the way there. Pro Sim up to second place. Don't feel we've talked about them a huge amount in this race, but they've kept themselves out of trouble, and they are now into second place. However, only 4 seconds back from them is this team, Rare Endurance. So Rare Endurance up into third place, now trying to chase down second. Now they did their fastest lap of the race last time, a 3:28.493, which has brought the gap down to 5 seconds between them and Pro Sim. Now GTE class, let's go to Real Esports. The two teams, the 911 is second place, and the 919 is the team ahead. So that is the 911 in second. 7.2 seconds back at the moment. There is Hyder Esports in third place. Hyder Esports 45 seconds back from them. And then we go to the GT3 class. Via Dukton leading the way there very comfortably now from ID SimSport. B32 Racing, who were at one stage leading this class, had an off, of course, and they are now down in third. But overall, Via Dukton have done most of the leading in the GT3 class and are deservedly away and clear. That is the top three in each class. Looking a little bit further back up the field, we're of course monitoring Undercover Sim Racing on their charge back through. 90 seconds back from Satellite Racing. They are now, Team RRC are actually pulling away from Satellite Racing just a little bit. And we have ProSim into the pits in the P2 class. So they have come in from, I think it was second place. They're now down in third.
We did have a yellow flag there in Sector 3. Not entirely sure what caused that. We don't really have anything on our screens right now to indicate. Maybe someone's having a little bit of an excursion while going into the pit lane. Again, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Great to have you here watching this 11th year of the GTR 24. Of course, recently changed their name to the Endurance eRacing World Championships, but I'm a big fan of the GTR 24. Called such because back in the day they actually started in GTR 2. Much has changed since then, of course. Feel free to say hello in the chat if you're there. If you have any questions, feel free to pose them to us and we'll do our best to answer them. Otherwise, sit back, relax. Long time left in this race yet.
Indeed it is. So we're approaching. Oh, there we go. Undercover Sim Racing off. Now that was a back marker that had just got in. I say got in the way. Who they had just caught at the wrong time, and Undercover Sim Racing having to take to the grass. They're now going to get that move done into the Ford chicane. But Undercover Sim Racing, a little bit of a scary moment. Now it's not a surprise to see them taking big risks because they did drop all the way down from being 50 seconds in the lead all the way down to nearly being out of the top 10. They're now back into fourth place, but that's the kind of risk they're going to have to take for the remainder of this race. If they want to win, of course, they are catching Satellite Racing quite quickly. It's 23 seconds to the Satellite Racing team with Nick Rowland in the car just ahead. And last time round, Undercover did a 3:23 despite that off. Satellite did a 3:27, Jimmy.
I kind of wonder, really, why they pushed so hard at this point. I can understand wanting to try and get back into the lead as soon as possible, but you got so much time in this race yet. We're only 3 hours into this race at this point, or nearly 3 hours into the race, I should say. So I don't see why the urgency. They've obviously got the pace out there. They can put in lap times seconds faster than anyone else on track, and yet they're still pushing to the point where they're nearly putting themselves into the wall. It doesn't really make much sense to me, Chris.
Yeah, I guess it's hard though, isn't it? If you're in the car, you don't really think about 24 hours. You think about however long your stint is, and of course you want to be the man that takes that car back into the lead. But it is about the teams. But I know from experience, just any time you jump into the seat, I guess the best are able to really think about the race ahead, and I'd say the most experienced. But sometimes it is very, very difficult to do that. It's quite easy for us often to say that, but doing it is certainly another thing. So I can sympathise with Undercover Sim Racing on that point. If I was in the car there, I'd really be pushing it and taking risks like they are at the moment, although that might not make the most sense.
Well, here is the Undercover Sim Racing car currently making their way past the Burst Esport car. A car was not really spoken about too much in GTE class at the moment. We're seeing at the moment they aren't doing too badly. Fifth in the class, currently with Jesper Pedersen at the wheel of that. We'll get a camera on them so you can get some appreciation. And here they are. This one, actually, the number 29 car, is just behind fifth place in class, going up
and
the
that's
inside, and there it is. Wow! Just as we get to it, ID SimSport looking very, very slow on the apex, and I think that was Jesper Pedersen overtaking Gert Nielsen. Now, Gert Nielsen, I believe it was Gert anyway. came up and said, I think it was him, that he is the oldest man in sim racing, is what he said. 62 years old. Great to have him back here and driving again. And he's actually he's done all 10 GTR 24-hour races with 5 second places and 2 third places. Always a bridesmaid, Chris, but never the bride.
That's it. Well, what about this time? Let's see. Gert Nielsen. He actually said that was, I think, the one and only thing he said to me this weekend. I haven't really spoke to him, but he made sure he said that. And Gert Nielsen, he wasn't lying, was he? 62 years old and doing a 24-hour race. That is what you call a legend, my friend. Well done to him.
Well,
but
I was going to say, Chris, I used to race with people who, my first team in endurance racing, one of the guys there, a fellow named Bill, he was about 68 years old when I raced with him. And it's the strangest thing, because you're having a race and he suddenly starts talking about a recipe for pot roast. And it's like, I'm trying to concentrate here, Bill. This is not, you're not making this easy for me, mate.
Well, I don't know. That pot roast can be an interesting conversation, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it is when you're hungry.
Yeah, and it's getting to that time now, isn't it? So we've got a man next to us who's only eating chips today. So
Eating?
I know.
Eating chips.
It's the sim racing diet, that is.
Auto-correct over there, Nick. Thank you. Thank you very
definitely.
much.
Oh dear. Anyway, we'll come back to this the actual race for a second. So I'll talk about my lack of eating, we should say. Something that we didn't really notice is that the Hyder eSport car, currently sitting in 3rd position in the GTE class, it's back in 3rd. It actually caught and overtook both the real eSport guys. But we didn't really see that happen on track. It might have been a pit stop difference, strategy difference. I would love to speak to one of the real esports guys. I can see one right there holding a can in front of me. Maybe you can come over words with us. There we go. We'll get him set up with Nick, and we can get some an idea of what's going on. We'll always pop on the stage. Nick will get you acclimatized, and then we will go from there. So there you go. All you got to do is grab someone. Oh, we've got a whole host of people now. What's going on now?
I think we're going to have to get a replay up on B32 there. Let's go back and have a look. It looks as if Nick has spotted something. Nick is getting a guest lined up. While we're doing that, let's have a look at a replay of what happened with them. You can see it on our screen. And is that the recovery from the incident? It must be, because they're traveling very slowly there.
It does look so. I think there was.
Should we go back and see if we can have a look then? So, I think you are seeing. Oh, yeah. Well, there we go. You're kind of watching the incident in reverse on the live stream at the moment. Oh, wow.
And what an incident it was. Lost traction there, and the last part of the curves went. And there you go. That's the thing you don't want to see, is that wall coming up to you very quickly. And I got to stress here, in this situation, B32, lock your brakes. Stop. Don't roll the car. I can't tell you how many incidents are caused like that. Luckily, they managed to put their arm over the chair behind and reverse back onto the into the gravel trap. But no matter, a lot of time lost there, and probably a bit of a bruised ego as well. Nick, how is our guest coming on?
Our guest is acclimatized, the headset on, and he's ready. Felix has just jumped out of the 911 Real eSports car, and Michele Diaz Alessandro is now driving. In fact, he's just put the fastest time of that car, 3:54.5, as opposed to oh yeah, that's a pretty good time. How was this? How was this stint for you? Yeah.
I actually didn't drive myself. I'm just engineering the 911 car. But yeah, it's going pretty good for us. Of course. All right. Of course, Michele, we had some troubles with the 911 car. We have a spin in the last stint when Yuri Kastorp was driving, but he's doing well, catching up to the other car, and looking good so far. Of course, the Hyder eSports had some trouble with their wheel. I heard.
Yeah, they had trouble with the wheel, and obviously in qualifying they had problems with the computer. So obviously they're showing the speed again. But I was watching you on the parade lap, you should recall it. I'm not sure if it was meant or if it just happened to be like that. It looked like the lead car was steady, and the second car seemed to be dropping back somewhat to try and push the field back? Was that?
No, I don't think it was really on purpose. We were just maybe wasn't paying attention back there, but
Okay, I'll believe you. But how's the pace going? Are you happy with the pace from both cars, or is there more to come?
yeah, Michele is doing a good lap so far. Giuseppe also just did his 55.2, so not bad lap times. Of course, the Hyder car is our main rival. Burst Esports is a bit further back. I believe they had some incidents as well, but it's going well for us, and let's hope it keeps going like this for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Yeah, Burst Esports at the beginning of the race were really putting some pressure on, but I think they ran into a little bit of a problem, and they're coming back now. And obviously Hyder are coming back, so they're going to be pushing. I noticed when Hyder actually took the lead, they came up on, obviously both your cars were running nose to tail, so he was able to overtake you quite quickly because of that. Obviously the pace from both cars is pretty strong, and the way you're running the car, it just seems like you're staying quite close to each other. Do you think, is that the way you're going to be going all the way through, do you think?
Yeah, hopefully staying close to each other, you have the advantage of the slipstream a little bit, and changing the cars around, perhaps saving some fuel. But yeah, the Hyder car seems that it's on raw pace. It might be a little bit quicker than us, but
we actually mentioned that. I'll hand you over to Jimmy, and I'm sure he's gonna bring it up as well.
No, I'll be kind to you. My question is more about the event here. Of course, you're saying you're one of the pit crew, or one of the on the pit wall, so to speak. How is it doing that around here? Of course, because when we're doing sim racing at home, we're using an armchair somewhere with a headset, and the person who's on the pit wall tends to draw the short straw. They want to get out there and drive, of course. What kind of challenge does it provide, being the guy and basically in charge of strategy and data and all that? How is that for you?
It's challenging, to say in a short way. It's really great to be here, though. Also meeting the guys that you normally never see. But it's great to be here, and I think from the pit wall, it's going all right. We have a good setup, three computers with the live timing and the telemetry from the cars, which is going well. And so far, strategy is also going according to the plan. So great job from the rest of the team as well. I'm not on my own.
I think saying you've got a good setup, a bit of an understatement. You've got 2 sofas over there and a fridge for the Red Bull. I thought about coming over there, maybe think, hello, you might maybe making friends with you.
Yeah, you should.
What I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not interested in Nick, I'm afraid. But thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you go, any shout-outs or sponsors you want to mention before we let you get back to your team?
Yeah, of course, our main sponsors, Thrustmaster and Next Level Racing, providing the supplies for the seats, and also the Refurb Total and the safe sponsors. They're helping us, the team, as well.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been great having you here, and we'll say I saw that all the drivers gather around for a second. I couldn't find you until now. Now you've all seemed to have come out of the woodwork. We'll speak to you guys a bit later on. But thank
it looks
you
like
all
the found a victim is also all right. We can come out of hiding now.
Yeah,
I think that's the reaction we're getting here.
Yeah, we can come out now. But best of luck for the rest of the race, and yeah, we'll watch your battles with eager eyes.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
What we'll do is we'll come back now to Chris, because Chris was noticed something in the timing there with undercover sim racing.
Yeah, they are closing in satellite racing now. It is just around 12 seconds to satellite racing. Last time, I think they might have hit a bit of traffic because satellite racing seemed to be pretty similar on the lap times, but this lap it is kind of back to what it was before, with undercover sim racing closing in once again.
And with that point, we will leave you with that, and we'll come back to this undercover sim racing charge after these commercials.
We live in a world where we often forget the consequences of our overconsumption. At Refurb, we want to change that particular habit, which is why we purchase large amounts of used, quality computers from companies and subsequently restore and reuse them. When we receive the computers, we perform data deletion, renovate, and test them to make sure they are once again like new. Many have already realized that you can save a lot of money without compromising, simply by reusing. Get more for less and be the positive change by reusing.
incomplete connections. Therefore, it is critical that they provide optimal service. Xilinx desktop, mobile and web applications can process everything from normal calls and callbacks to chats, emails, and social media inquiries. Let Xilinx liberate your business.
How do you feel when someone is looking over your shoulder? Not all snoopers can be seen. Cyber criminals can steal your sensitive information. Hackers can intercept your data on public Wi-Fi. But not with the NordVPN app. It helps protect your privacy by encrypting your online data, and it's so easy to use. NordVPN, your shield from online snoopers. Download and enjoy trusted internet security and privacy.
With so much of my life stored on my PC, I can't afford to take any chances. That's why I choose Kaspersky Antivirus to help keep me safe. It protects me from viruses and spyware without slowing me down. My PC keeps performing as it was designed to, and nothing gets in my way. Get award-winning protection for your PC. Kaspersky Antivirus.
So Next Level Meal is a meal replacement. So if you've ever heard of Soylent or one of those other products, the idea is that instead of eating a meal, you drink it or you eat a bar. That's what Next Level Meal is. The difference being that it actually tastes good. For me, I use Next Level Meal when I'm traveling or when I want to replace the worst meal that I'm going to eat in a given day. And the reason that I'm excited about this particular food is because its basis is real food.
Welcome back, everybody. Jimmy Broadbent is currently gone for a break, and while he has, Nick has moved alongside me to the right side of our commentary box. Now, whilst we have been away, Undercover have gone part. Undercover Sim Racing made the move on ID Sim Sport, so that was a move made earlier in the ad break. HYDR came in the GTE class, and Simtech International and DGTL, that battle just getting a little bit closer at the moment. That is happening further down the field for 7th and 8th in the GTE class. DGTL now just 2 seconds behind Simtech International. But as Team RRC come into the pits, I'm going to throw over to you, Nick, because we are on board with Undercover Sim Racing, who are now just 10 seconds behind Satellite.
That one. Ah, hello.
Got there in the end.
Got there in the end. What we're looking at, I'm going to get back to Undercover Sim Racing. What is it? The gap is now 10 seconds. They're really making a charge after the early problems. The pace is definitely there with that car. Whether they're going to take too many risks getting back up, but they've already taken a lap back out. Obviously, they dropped a lap down with their problems, and now they're hard on the heels of the Satellite number 64. As we've just said, they're only 10 seconds behind as they're coming through under the Dunlop Bridge, chasing down the 64 with, I think, Nick Rowland at the wheel, and both of them chasing down Joe Ciampa, but definitely Nicholas Hildebrand is carrying on where the previous driver left off, coming round onto the Mulsanne straight. I would imagine with the pace that this car is holding out for the past, we've got a yellow.
Can we find Burst Esport and let's have an out car view for that, because it looks as if something's happened with them. We just had a yellow flag for them. Burst Esport, go. So Burst Esport, they're 28th place. Let's try and find them at the moment. Then there they are. Not too sure what's happened, but we had a yellow flag come up around them. B32 Racing, by the way, have come into the pits and are now back out on track, but I'm not too sure what happened there. One thing we were talking about on the ad break there, Nick, is it looks as if Undercover Sim Racing, who are now about 8 seconds back from Satellite, are they starting to, you were talking about, you're speaking to some teams who reckon that they might just be being a little bit too optimistic with their strategy.
Yeah, they could be pushing maybe a little bit too hard. Obviously, at the minute, it's working for them, but later on in their stints, as the tyres go off, they may push in the car, just might let go, but we'll have to see. They're pushing hard, and that's the way they want to do. It's what they need to do. Obviously, they've got ambitions to actually win this event, and at the time they had to run into their problems. They had a gap of 50+ seconds, so it's a test of character and mentality about coming back through the field, which they're doing well now, but it's a risk and reward, and at the minute the reward is a high and the risk is low at this minute.
I'll tell you what, let's find DGTL. They're in 19th place, so I'll let Nick get that battle on screen for us. DGTL are trying to close in on Simtech International. Here we are. So this is DGTL on screen. Casper in that car at the moment. Nico is in the Simtech International car just ahead. It's 2.2 seconds the gap between these guys now. ID Simsport a little bit further up the road are only 2 seconds back from Undercover Sim Racing. So this is where we can see the DGTL battle. That's the two cars we are talking about on your screen. So in the green and blue livery, that is Simtech International. DGTL just behind, and they're now in the tow as we head up towards turn number 1. Lights now on, so we are getting in towards the night time of this race. And DGTL, are they going to go for a move here as we are about to go into the chicane? No, they back out for now. So through the S's we come, and under the Dunlop Bridge, DGTL may just wait for the Mulsanne straight here, Nick, to do this move.
Yeah, definitely. He needs to keep as close as possible as he can to get into the tour.
And here comes Satellite.
And Satellite is going to get involved with this. Will this harm the overtake move from DGTL? We'll have to see. I think it has actually broken the toe, so this could help. But we'll see if he can get anything. No, it looks like the toe has been broken, so a little bit of pressure off. We'll see what he can do on the second Mulsanne after the chicane. But Satellite really did interfere with that move. It was looking like he was trying to get in. He's actually getting a little bit of toe into that, but the move could now have to wait until the second Mulsanne.
And who's coming up next? Is that Undercover that are now just behind? I think that is, yes, in the AAA car. So this is a team that are not willing to wait around at all. And there they go, past one, and past the other.
That's what we were talking about, the risk and reward.
Yep, one on the outside, one on the inside. And this is now actually bringing DGTL a little bit closer as we head down towards the second chicane. Let's get an onboard view, shall we, with DGTL. Here we go. Let's go in car. We haven't used this camera angle enough today, I don't think. So into the second chicane we go. DGTL now right behind as we come out of the chicane. We're going to head now down to Mulsanne. Is it worth, I wonder, a defense here from Simtech International? This is the battle for 7th in the GTE class. Behind this, Simtech Pink have come into the pits, by the way, but this is DGTL we are looking at now. This is for 7th in class, so currently 8th in class is DGTL, and sensibly not trying any moves into Mulsanne. But next up, Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's about getting the exit there to carry the speed all the way through into Indianapolis. And obviously, if he can stay tight on here through Arnage and then the long run up the Porsche curves, let's see if he can get a toe onto the car. Yep, at the minute it's he's keeping a steady gap. Maybe he's holding station. Yeah, he's closing up now. Let's see when the brake markers come in. Yep, brakes early, nice turn in. And here we have Indianapolis off camber, turn in left, looks for his exit, keeps it, changes up to third before he changes back down for the right hander of Arnage, down to first. It looks like he's getting wide. He's going to get the run up on the right hand side. Can he get the move done?
Yep, well, it looks like DGTL. Let's go out of car, shall we? And there we can see them side by side. So DGTL with a mistake there from the Simtech International team just coming out of Arnage. DGTL have now been able to pull alongside here. The move hasn't been done yet, but now it is. So before the Porsche curves, importantly, DGTL are now into that 7th place in the GTE class. So one mistake there, Nick, and that has now cost Simtech International. You reckon that was just down to the pressure? It seems to be Arnage is a place which is easy to make a mistake.
I think it was definitely the pressure of the DGTL car. He was actually probably looking in his mirrors instead of spotting the corner.
And Undercover, sorry to cut you off there, but Undercover Sim Racing were only 3 seconds back, but they've just gone into the pit. So back to you, Nick.
Yeah, this battle, obviously, DGTL have now consolidated that position in front of Simtech International, and they've actually started pulling out a gap. So the work has been done. Obviously, the car is a little bit faster, but it's no good saying that if you can't make the pass. And the move was good, assisted by a little off in the right hand of Arnage. But I must admit, DGTL did in Indianapolis really well. Got a good drive out, was ready and waiting for any mistake, which actually happened in front of them, and then they were able to capitalise, get a good drive out, whereas Simtech International were off on the AstroTurf, couldn't get the power down, obviously span the rear wheels up, and that gave enough of a chance for DGTL to make the move.
Now, I'll tell you what, Lithium are still running, by the way. We thought that they were out of the race, but I believe that it's still them being shown on track. So I'm not too sure if they were able to get themselves back in the race. But that is interesting. But let's switch back to this battle. Simtech International now closing back in on DGTL. That's the battle we need to be looking at. So let's get back to that Simtech International battle, shall we? Here they are coming down towards us. It's the battle for 17th place we are looking at, which is, I think, just in the background. So we need to go back one more there. So let's have a look. In fact, DGTL, who are behind, let's see if we can pick them up. Here they are. So DGTL 18th, Simtech International just behind there in 19th. So they're close enough to get back involved in this. I don't think this battle is over just yet, but picking up on Lithium Motorsports while there's just a little bit of a breather in this battle, I think they're actually still running. Now, why don't you bring us up to date, Nick, with what happened to them earlier?
If I can remember rightly,
it was fuel, wasn't it?
It was the run out of fuel. Obviously, they missed the pit stop, obviously within the window, and just missed the pit box. So basically, had to go around, and unfortunately, I think they were around 2 litres shy from where they actually had to pull off track, and obviously had to wait and then restarted the race. But at least they're back in. But they've got a long way to go to catch up to the actual P2 field. They're sitting in amongst the GTE field, so they've got a long way to go. A few laps down, but at least they're running. So we'll see where they're going now.
Let's quickly find Black Devil Racing, because we've got a yellow popping up around them, which usually means there's been an incident of some sort. And they are into the pits, and they weren't before, so I'm not too sure what's happened to Black Devil Racing. We'll come back to that later. In the meantime, shall we return to the DGTL battle? That is our leaders, Satellite Racing. We'll pop back through the list, and there we are, DGTL, just in time, because they are being caught once again by Simtech. And who's this that's coming up behind? That looks to be one of the satellite cars that is just able to get through before the Porsche curves. DGTL having to just jink left there, and that's thrown them off a little bit, because Simtech now getting a little bit closer. And
I think that was the problem there. The satellite car took the line away from the number 42 car, and obviously we saw the consequences of that, going slightly wide, running offline. Was able to gather it, but now we've got to be careful, because offline we've got the marble build up, and that can obviously cause some issues, as we saw there. But it looks like he's gathered himself back together and got back on. It takes the final corner at Ford, really hits the suspension hard and rocks the car, but it doesn't seem to have affected his momentum as he heads up to the Dunlop chicane.
Well, we'll keep with this battle for just a little bit longer, shall we? DGTL versus Simtech International. Whilst that's going on, I can tell you there has been some pit stops a little bit further up. Satellite Racing in the pits at the moment. We saw that happening. Undercover Sim Racing did come into the pits and are back out again, but I'm not too sure exactly what's going on, but our monitors seem to have just frozen at the moment. So I can tell you on track that the top 10 is a so. So Satellite Racing are leading the way, but are in the pits. Team RRC are second place. Third place is the 64th Satellite Racing. Undercover Sim Racing is fourth. Endurance Racing are fifth. HYDR Esport are sixth. Then we have the Rare Endurance team, seventh. ProSim is in eighth place. Then in ninth place is Simtech Motorsport, and IRDK Endurance are in 10th. But behind that, we have ID Sim Sports, the two real eSport teams. Then it's Hyder eSport. Behind that, then we have Burst eSport, Undercover Sim Racing 16th. Then it's ID Sim Sport, DGTL, Simtech International, Team Bernie Racing, Simtech Pink, Lithium Motorsports, ID Sim Sport, Team RRC. And then behind that,
yeah, the minute Simtech is still chasing down the number 42 car, coming on traffic. We've got some technical issues with one of the screens here.
Well, there we go. Problem solved. You might have saw that on the stream, but I think maybe a flick of a wrong button. Now, ID Sim Sports, I've got a yellow around them at the moment. They're not actually far back from this, so let's find ID at Sim Sports, 24th place on track. They're in the pits, so there's been an issue for them. Now, it didn't say that they're being shown as on track, but they, of course, are in the pits. Satellite Racing still in the pits themselves. Just looking down the field, Nick, to see what battles we got going on. Might be worth picking up our GTE leaders, Real Esports. They are 1 and 2 in that class at the moment. There they are. So, Real Esports are, of course, 12th overall, and that is Real Esport doing a good job, aren't they? 1 and 2 in class, 2 seconds between them.
Yeah, it looks like they're certainly running to a game plan. The cars have hardly been separated any further distance than they're shown at present. I think they're running really well, and I think it's up to Hyder if they can stay clean, really, to challenge them. But at the minute, the 919 has really shown a clean set of fields. They've got a good team in both cars, and it's actually definitely shown the quality of the team is shining through at this minute.
Yeah, I can only agree with you there. Now, an update on Undercover Sim Racing. They are just done a 3:17.7, so still pumping in those times. 30 seconds behind Satellite Racing, having both done stops. Certainly Undercover Sim Racing did a longer stop there, so would be down to strategy, perhaps tyres or fuel, or both. Now, Real Esports, one of the closest battles. We still have that DGTL versus Simtech International fight going on. They're still within 1 second of each other. Should we have? We've had a look at it a couple of times, but let's go back to it. Here it is. So we're still very close. Simtech International just behind, chasing down DGTL. Nick, what do you do? What do you do if you're, of course, in the car here for say Simtech International? You're going to go past DGTL? Is having a fight worth it for both the tyres and your strategy, and of course your overall race time?
Obviously, Simtech have given up that position a couple of laps later that we saw. The main thing now is to try and stay on the heels of the number 42 car, not exactly within the tow. So depending on how he feels, how the car is, remember he lost the place simply because of overdriving into our nose. So the speed of the car's still there, they're nose to tail. I would, if the tyres were giving me the grip, if the pass was available, I would actually want to take it. But obviously you've got to pick your moment, because if you pass on the way into the Mulsanne, the chicane, you've got the second Mulsanne straight for him to come back at you if he gets a good exit as well. So it's about choosing your battles and choosing where you want to have your battles as well. Choose the ground to suit yourself and suit your car.
Well, there is some experience in that team, DGTL team. Chris Dons Johansson, the 27-year-old, 7 GTR24 appearances, and he's had 4 podiums. So he's, along with Alex Rees, who is 34 years old, and then we have as well, no real info. Casper didn't really bother to submit any info to us there. But I'll see if I've got anything on the Simtech International team. But before that, I'll just hand over to Nick to talk you through this battle.
Yeah, they're staying close. It's been about 4 laps now we've seen that we've been following them. No more than, 0.5 between them. If he can redeem himself, because he will be unhappy with the way he actually he's actually, as we speak, and he's his front wheels going in a little bit too hot into Indianapolis. He's having to wait for a clear part of the track to rejoin as a P car goes through. Now we'll have to gather his thoughts, gather himself back up together, get back on it, and try and get back up to speed. But has he done damage to the tyres? Has he flat spotted them? Is it coming to the end of the stint? Is it worth coming into the pits? If he has flat spotted them, we'll see. But definitely came in too hot.
I think the biggest damage is the gap. It's now 17 seconds he's lost in that spin. So big incident there with Simtech International battling for 7th, and that's exactly what we were talking about. Was it worth just tucking in behind? Perhaps it was, because trying to push too hard to go past DGTL, and unfortunately there's been a bit of a spin for them. So Simtech International, there they are. Whilst we're saying that, also in the battle for the top 10 in that class, ID SimSport have just come into the pits. So ID SimSport in. Let's pick up Undercover Sim. Well, we almost had an off in the background there, didn't we? That was one of the real esport teams, I think, that almost found themselves getting a little bit of a nudge from one of the P2 teams. So almost a little bit of an incident there, but in the end, all good for real esport. They haven't, I don't think, put a move on each other yet. They've just kept themselves to themselves for this race, even when they were caught and passed for the lead in the GTE class, and that was by Hyder, wasn't it? Hyder Esport are 3rd in this class at the moment. But I hope you guys are all enjoying the stream. It's great to have you here. We will very shortly be getting into the night phases of this race. Now, I haven't, of course, not doing much sim racing myself. I'm going to ask someone who has done a lot of sim racing. What's it like doing a night stint around Le Mans?
It's, for myself, it's the part that I like the most. When I do these 24-hour races at Le Mans, I always do the night stint. Along with the last race, it was Ben, myself and Ben Russell took over just around midnight and handed the car back over about 7 o'clock in the morning. So you've got some guys here who prefer driving at night, or quite happy driving at night, and you've got some guys who actually do not like it and prefer to drive through the day. But this is where the balance of the team comes into play. Obviously, driving as the sun is setting or the dawn is coming puts extra pressure on the guys. It's best to have the guy driving as we drive into the night phase, and obviously coming out of the night phase, then doing a driver swap in the midst of it, so the eyes are adjusted to the track conditions as well, because obviously there is a change. And we'll probably see these guys taking it into the night phase most likely, and then doing the driver swap.
I mean, I have seen some onboards from Le Mans at night time, and it looks terrifying, to be honest. I mean, what's the most you've done it in? Is it in the GT classes you usually do that you're mostly experienced in, or is it the P1 and P2?
Well, I've done mostly P cars. This is really my first season in the GTE class, so it's going to be an experience when I do get into the night phase. I'm used to driving the P car, and obviously I'm closing up on speed, so I know I'm going to take the GT car. But obviously we've got the change of the light colours as well. In the past, the GT car had the yellow headlights, and the P cars had the whites. So the GT cars had the information of the car coming up behind them now, but now that sort of has been taken away, so all they can see now is actually a white light coming up behind them. They're going to have to work out themselves the closing speed, and just obviously stay the same way as they do in the daylight, and stay on the line, and let the P car take the line over and take the pace. But we'll see as the night phase comes in, how these guys are going to cope with it.
Well, we've got a couple of our P2 cars in, actually, Rare Endurance and Simtech. It might be worth picking up the IRDK Endurance car now, because with those pit stops, they have closed in. So that's 9th place we're going to look after. So we're just going to head forward. And that said, they've come into the pits. Right, so that is 2nd, 3rd and 4th. All in, which means Hyder Esport are now into the lead. There is Hyder Esport, in fact, so they are now back into the lead of the P2 class. Team, you know a lot about, Nick. I know you said that once they did get into the lead, that words were going around that perhaps that was them in the lead and potentially with one hand on the trophy.
Yeah, I think known them from obviously the league that I race in alongside them. I know the guys in the car, and Dennis Lind obviously we know about. And as we say, that Hyde actually are coming into the pit. I know that they're running to a strategy, trying to get stint length, trying to get at least a lap on the rest of the P2 field.
So yeah,
we've got Enzo in the car at the minute, straight with the number 3 Rare Endurance team with Michael Storm in P2 at the minute, but I think they're going to come out the pits. Enzo's going to come out the pits still in the lead from where they were on track with Michael Storm.
Yeah, I think you're right. So it's good to have yourself, somebody who knows all these drivers quite well, perhaps on a personal level as well. Third in the class, we have got ProSim. So there is Hyder in the pits. This is ProSim, third in class at the moment, doing a pretty good job. They're 15 seconds back from the Rare Endurance team. So you'd have to say ProSim have been a. Let's have a look at where they qualified. In fact, they were third overall in the qualifying for class. So at the moment, all going to plan for them.
Yeah, the guy in the car at the minute, Ryder Munich, is a really fast guy as well. Drives for one of the top teams in the VEC. So I expect him to really put on a pace and really show how good he really is in this car and push it further up. Enzo is now back out on track, still in first as I thought, because of the position that the car went in. So they'll be looking to carry on this push. The pace won't be letting up whatsoever. So I expect Hyder to just keep showing the rest of the P2 class a clean pair of heels.
Yep, well, that's the P2 class. It's Hyder, Rare, ProSim, SimTech. Then we have IRDK and ID SimSport. Lithium Motorsports down the field, although still running after running out of fuel a little bit earlier in the race. Of course, our GTE leaders are real eSport. They are both first and second. The closest battle actually is between Team Bernie Racing and SimTech in 20th and 21st place in that class. So we're just going to have Nick head through, and there it is. We can now see it. So this is SimTech Pink closing in on Team Bernie Racing. Two teams, Nick, that have been pretty much together for the entirety of the race. Have you had this situation yourself before in an endurance where even if it's such a long race, you find yourself battling with the same team over and over again?
It can happen because if you're running the same sort of strategy, similar track times, you find that you're just in the slipstream all the time, or they're in your slipstream all the time, and it becomes quite a dance throughout the whole race. And the only time it may change is if there's been a mistake by a certain driver or a strategy change that has been arranged to try and get away from them. So we'll see if it goes on, but obviously we've got this battle here, and we've got the in-team battle between the real esports team, but they're using the point of staying together to save fuel, as we heard from the guy.
Well, here we go. SimTech Pink getting very close now. They are just over 2 seconds back from this fight. And with this battle about to kick off very, very shortly, let's say in the next few minutes, before it happens, we are going to go to a very quick commercial where we will get Jimmy Broadbent back on the mic.
How do you feel when someone is looking over your shoulder? Not all snoopers can be seen. Cyber criminals can steal your sensitive information. Hackers can intercept your data on public Wi-Fi. But not with the NordVPN app. It helps protect your privacy by encrypting your online data, and it's so easy to use. NordVPN, your shield from online snoopers. Download and enjoy trusted internet security and privacy.
Connections. Therefore, it is critical that they provide optimal service. Xilinx desktop, mobile and web applications can process everything from normal calls and callbacks to chats, emails, and social media inquiries. Let Xilinx liberate your business.
We live in a world where we often forget the consequences of our overconsumption. At Refurb, we want to change that particular habit, which is why we purchase large amounts of used, quality computers from companies and subsequently restore and reuse them. When we receive the computers, we perform data deletion, renovate, and test them to make sure they are once again like new. Many have already realized that you can save a lot of money without compromising, simply by reusing. Get more for less and be the positive change by reusing.
With so much of my life stored on my PC, I can't afford to take any chances. That's why I choose Kaspersky Antivirus to help keep me safe. It protects me from viruses and spyware without slowing me down. My PC keeps performing as it was designed to, and nothing gets in my way. Get award-winning protection for your PC. Kaspersky Antivirus.
Welcome back, Jimmy Broadbent back on the mic here alongside Nick Newcomb, giving Chris McCarthy a well-deserved rest.
Yep.
And right now we are back watching satellite racing and undercover racing. at the moment. They are side by side, well, not side by side, sorry. Undercover Racing have come right up to the back of the 64 satellite car, gaining nearly 3 seconds in one lap alone. We're actually in second and third place now because Team RRC is pitting. Of course, Undercover Sim Racing losing a lap earlier on. This fight back has been absolutely legendary, and we're not anywhere near the midway point yet. The 64 car struggling through the S's, and there it is, the 888 car in the background, split up by traffic right now, but they'll be coming right back and in the 60 already. Let's go on board, shall we, with the 888 car. That's the gap right now. That poor satellite car must be wondering what it's doing wrong, because here it comes now up into second position, side by side down the straight. It should be an easy done thing. The 64 has no response, it seems, coming down to the Mulsanne chicane, the first of two. And there we go, the 888 car up into second place. What a comeback, Nick.
Yeah, it's absolutely immense. We looked a bit loose from satellite coming out of the Mulsanne chicane. Yeah, as you mentioned, and as we've highlighted quite often in the past hour, the pace from that car is immense. Obviously, they had the problems when they were leading the race and had a 50-second gap on the field. To come back, obviously, the pace is in the car. It's been relentless. Nicholas Hildebrand has just carried on from where the previous driver left off. And obviously the chase is on. Obviously they're going to be looking for the P1 now. Where are they? They are 2 minutes and 9 seconds at the minute from the 11 car. We've got Eric Schmieder back in the car, who actually opened the stint at the start of the race. So it's a case of let's keep an eye on this gap, and let's see if the number 11 satellite car has got any response to try and hold off the 888 Undercover Sim Racing.
That would have hurt there for the 64 car, having to wait for the SimTech car to get its move done on the BMW GTE in front and then move round himself. That's pretty much put paid to any chance he had of defending that position. Though, to be honest, I don't think that Nick Rowland really had anything that he can give back there. He's kind of being passed, and that's that done. As you said, Eric Schmieder now has the lead of this race overall in the number 11 satellite racing car. So if nothing else, I can say they've led the race. About 2 minutes difference between the two guys, 2 minutes 15 seconds if you want to be exact, and here that is on track right now, the number 11 coming down to the first Mulsanne chicane. What we do, seeing as we've had a quick swap in comms, is we'll go through the top three in each class and let you know what's going on there. So we'll start with, of course, our top three in LMP1. Satellite Racing, number 11, leading from the 888 Undercover Sim Racing, storming back through the field after losing a lap early on in the race. And of course, a car just past the number 64 Satellite Racing car, currently in third position in class. Let me go